From this point onwards, I'm going to assume that you've seen the video at this point. It is up. It has been uploaded. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you've seen the main film. If not, pause the video, go watch that, maybe twice, and then come back and watch this. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit. First off, I don't know if you actually watched till the end. I actually talked for like a minute and a half after the credits end. Just because I needed to give some shout outs to some very critical people who helped. If you didn't, whatever. This is my tripod setup, a Dirt Devil box and a little tripod, and that's because I'm actually in the middle of like moving to a new apartment and have been kind of like over the last week. And so it's like I made the dumb assumption that of course I'm going to be filming that while I'm there. I might as well move all my film stuff and tripods over there. So then it came time to like film that outro, and I was like, I don't have anything to set my camera up on. Fortunately, I have that. So, what did you guys think? Did you like the video? The film? I don't want to call it a video because I feel like that's undercutting what like how big of a project this was. Yeah, it's just a video, no big deal. I like short film, but I don't know. I'm probably gonna say video a lot from now on. I don't know. So you can see my calendar thing, but I'm gonna switch cameras so you can kind of get like a screen capture sort of sense. I'm just gonna kind of scrub through the footage and talk about it. Okay, am I rolling? Yeah, I'm rolling. Sweet. Okay, so this is the video. This is actually the raw, not the raw. This is the original YouTube upload, which came out to be about almost 4 gigabytes. And of course, you know, YouTube naturally compressed the hell out of it. So the YouTube file itself looks very like muted. So it's unfortunate that you can't actually see the original file with the high data rates really close to the camera, or the screen rather. So yeah, this is that opening scene that I was talking about where it was, I'm gonna mute it. I bought this stock footage because I thought it was worth it and composited the giant smoke. Yada yada, this whole intro scene. So the next shot coming up here is actually pretty sweet. Okay, pause it right here. I wish I could, I'm gonna have to like prepare the original raw footage for you guys sometimes because it's like, Tanner's actually standing right here the entire time. And I had to like paint him out. You can kind of see specifically around like right here, the grass looks a little weird, especially if I get a little closer. Yeah, I basically did projection mapping. I talked about that a few months ago, actually, if you remember, where I basically project the texture onto this geometry that moves with the scene. Yeah. So Tanner's literally standing there the whole time, and then when he flies in, he literally just spins around. I just kind of like animated him like jumping in. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Oh, and this little smoke shot here of Nick flying in, that's actually the exact same smoke simulation as the one we just saw. It's just a low detail version because the way I do these fume simulations is I'll do like a quick motion simulation and then I'll do like a high detail simulation on top of that, basically using the motion to influence the wispiness of the high detail. So the one with Tanner, high detail, the one in this is not high detail. But since it was literally going to be on screen for about half a second, I thought this was plenty enough detail. So, you know, just enough to see some smoke, kind of goes away, and then back and away. Yeah. So, gosh, I hope this is in focus for you guys. I'm gonna turn that off. Maybe that's on. I don't know. And then they talk their scene. And the whole idea here, I'm going to switch back real quick. The whole idea that we were going with these characters in this story is that, you know, Brent, who plays this character named Malachi, you know, he's obviously running from something that had just, from something terrible that had just happened. And in the story, it was like a burning building of some sort off in the wilderness, hidden. It was ambushed somehow, fights happened, people died, but he managed to escape. And then these people show up and they've got wands pointed at him and they look dangerous and he's like, I don't know what to do. So the point is that you're not supposed to know whether they're good guys or bad guys. And then it's brought back to the beginning, near the end, when RJ talks about, says something about government. Would you trust that in the hands of the government, of any government? And that's supposed to imply that, like, you know, these guys may be workers, but this is a big enough power that maybe they shouldn't be trusted either. And so we didn't really delve too deep into this because this is kind of more of like proof of concept action type video than like really fleshing out the entire story. But that was kind of what we were going for, and I think it came across pretty fine. Yeah. So this upcoming dream sequence shot was one of that effect specifically. I'll try to pause it. Was pretty much one of the first effects I did for this film. Period. This is back before I was like, okay, I might as well start doing effects. So I started on this one. This is before I had any sort of system in place. So I basically wanted to have some sort of like mind getting ripped apart, but I didn't really know how to do it. So I used a plugin called Trapcode Mir, M-I-R, to kind of fractalize the background and do some stuff like that. And then basically have his face get ripped apart and then turn into a giant fractal. You can see like his lip come jutting out into the front of the frame and like his eyes going off to the side. So it's like just a big mess of blurriness. And then we're back to the actual dungeon. And this we shot at the YouTube space. If you've seen other people's videos from YouTube Next Up, you might recognize the location. For instance, AVBite did a Game of Thrones musical and shot a lot of it in here, and that was cool. This guy's name is John Watson, pretty cool guy. We cast him because he has this really awesome deep voice, and he did pretty well. And this is a dream sequence, so we tried to make like everything really echoey and dreamy. So dreamy. Okay, so this right here, that. You can't see anything, but there's actually the orb sitting right here. And this was one of the trickiest shots in the entire video because I had to take a still frame, which didn't perfectly match up. It wasn't just a matter of like, oh yeah, just place it back where it was. No, I had to like uncorner pin the whole thing, which basically meant stretch it out so it looked like it was flat against like, say, a wall. And then I had to re-move it into 3D space so it matched the table, and I had to track it in 3D space so it actually moved with the table the whole time. And then of course I had to cut around his hand as his hand goes over it, so it's like you can actually see his hand and the table underneath it, and then slowly reveal the orb. Yeah, so that was super tricky, but I think it worked out well. If you look really closely, you can actually see some of the glints and like just the poor rotoing. Like, oh, kind of see, like look closely around his hand. It'll look shiny every now and then, especially towards the beginning of the sequence. You might see a little bit of the orb kind of stick up across the table here. Yeah, see that little flashes? That was just like these highlights on the orb coming through, because they like eat into the edge, so because it's like diffracting light, and so it's really hard to rotoscope that kind of stuff. But anyway, we shall continue. So, oh yeah, that was sweet. A guy from Twitter named Ross Arnold actually modeled this this wand for me because I didn't know how to really model. Oh, and I'll get to this fire thing in a bit. Yeah, cool. So he modeled the wand because I could have either bought a model online that didn't look like his wand, or I could model it myself and spend all that time trying to figure it out. But fortunately, Ross did a pretty good job of modeling. He even like modeled the interior tube where you'd put like the feather or the like unicorn hair or whatever. So it was like, it's legit. So I basically took that into 3ds Max and I fractured it. I basically broke it up into 1,000 pieces, and then I took it into After Effects again and then animated like the little pieces falling out using Element 3D. I'm trying to not be too technical, just because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to watch this who don't normally watch this, and I don't want to lose them, but I know there's more technical guys watching this. Anyway, yeah. So then I actually did like an entire fume smoke sim using just like a small little cylinder, some wind, and then I made some sparks using particular. Yeah, so that was cool. So this fire, I'm going to go back to that. Basically what I did was, these are several overlaid little fire bursts. Like, all the I'm going to switch back. All those little bursts, almost like muzzle flares, but like muzzle flares, anyway, magical bursts of flame and energy. All of those, I simulated all those myself, just like a little poof, fire, and it burns out pretty quickly. And so for this, what I did was I basically just took several of them and overlaid them, And then I took that and I looped it over and over and over again, so it just looks like a continuous bursting thing. And to make it look like it's actually sitting on the orb, is I applied this filter called optics compensation, which corrects for really like fisheye lenses. And you can reverse that so that it like goes really inwards and makes it like super fisheye. And what that does is it makes it look like it's actually wrapping around like a sphere of some sort. So I just kind of like applied some of that, and I just like placed it on top of the orb and applied a few different transfer modes to make it like blend in interesting ways instead of just like having it like on ad or screen, because you don't want to do that. You want to do something a little bit more interesting. And of course I cut around his fingers and let that play out, so I'll show that. So as you'll see, poof, all that fire, and I mean it's a quick shot so you can't really see too much of it. I used it again later for the final orb shot where he catches the spell. I just changed all the colors. Also, you'll notice his eyes. Wow, you can really notice the eyes here. I basically just tracked them and added some curves and hue adjustments and stuff like that. But he blinks out of it. So like he's like, listen, woof, woof, eyes are gone. And Will's like, wait, what? What was that? Huh? Did you see that? He's like, oh, I don't know what just happened. I don't even remember that. I'm just gonna keep talking. He's like, and Will's like, oh man, we gotta get you out of here. Come with us, we'll help you. And then oh wow, I'm getting sidetracked. Sorry guys. Okay, so this explosion here, this is one of my favorite shots in the video, and one of the biggest shots I was looking forward to when I dreamed up of this whole sequence. And this I didn't actually do myself. I didn't simulate this. My friend Kevin Comerford, he does a lot of the 3D work for the Freddy W channel. If you've ever seen like the Zelda Smashing Pots video or the Gary's Mod video or the Metal Gear Rising video, he pretty much did most of the work in all those. And I asked him if he could help me out with this because I just simply didn't have enough time to figure out how to do it and do it well, and I knew he would be able to do a lot better, and sure enough, he did an amazing job. He even did like this stuff where he makes it look like the smoke is kind of flowing through the grass. Let's see if I can pause it for you. Like, look at this. It actually looks like the fire and smoke is going through the grass, and what he did was he actually generated 3D grass and used that as like to make, yeah, he rendered 3D grass, but it wasn't, the smoke isn't actually going through the 3D grass. I'm using it as a track mat, like a Lumimat, for like the actual footage overlaid back on top of the fire, so it makes it look like the fire's going through it. And there too, so it really looks like it's more there because of that specifically. And also you'll see Brent, his orb, the Fire of Olympus, absorbed the brunt of the blast, which is why everyone else went flying, and he's just like, wait, what happened, guys? Guys, where'd you go, guys? Yeah. And this I did simulate. I did all that. It was just, yeah, cool stuff. All that roto. Yep. And yada yada, not really too much happens here. This was one of the first effects that I figured out how to actually do the shield on, because I knew we were going to have shield effects, but I didn't know how I wanted them to look, because, you know, how should they look? Not really any precedent for it in the Harry Potter universe. In the movies, I went back and I watched all of them, and they have some cool, sweet shield moments, but they're all really inconsistent. They're all different from each other. Same thing with like Avada Kedavra. If you go and like look on YouTube and search like all the Avada Kedavra spells from the movies, everyone's different. One is like, sometimes it's a flash, other times it's like this beam of light that wraps around the person and sends them flying. Other times it's just a quick like shoof, and the person drops dead. So I was like, I don't know how to do that. I guess I'll kind of figure out my own way. Anyway, the shields were the same way. I wanted to have something consistent within this own little universe we've created, but I wanted something to draw from. So kind of what I ended up doing was basically like, I just realized I stopped on kind of a derp face. Sorry, Will. You'll look, especially here and here, you'll notice the colors are actually split. And I might do a tutorial on, oh no, I might do a tutorial on that at some point, but I basically just use the shield as a bit of a track mat to, for the colors, the split footage. Also, I'm going to show you another thing here in a moment. Come on, spells. Cool. So I used a combination of like roughened edges and turbulent noise to do, and then find edges in After Effects to kind of create this like swirly edge of the thing. But it doesn't really do too much for the inside of it. So I created a separate thing to make it like add a bunch of turbulent noise, and also split all the color channels. So like that's why you're seeing like some yellow down here and some red up here and blue, and like it looks kind of like a rainbow, but it's also like all swirly. I really like that effect, so I just kind of went with it. So that's pretty much. There's only one other shot where this is like not the case at all. I'm tempted to not show you, but if you go watch the video and see like which moment of the shield is like inconsistent with every other shield, you'll know, because that was like the first one I actually did, the first shield I did before I found some sort of consistent style to go with. Let's put it that way. So this Brent is actually like the shot with Brent running away. This is that same shot. Tanner was literally just a few feet behind him, and so when I wanted to have Tanner running after Brent, I couldn't have Brent in the shot because it's like he ran away twice. It really inconsistent for the flow of the edit, so I had to like literally paint him out, even though like this is all over the place. I stabilized the hell out of it, but yeah, I mean, so anyway. Yep, so, and then I think the next thing that happens is RJ shows up, and if you've seen the breakdown video, you kind of like know what's going on with that. So, whoa, wow, super fast forward. I'm gonna like expand this down here, cool. So this is one of my favorite shots in the whole piece, is this slow motion sequence right here. So cool, I love it. Anyway, I want to definitely do more slow motion stuff, but it's really hard to kind of do this stuff with our time delays and the camera setup that I had, because this was super shaky. Actually, I was shooting on an 8mm lens at 240 frames per second, and so this is pretty slow. But I think the actual speed of this is probably like 120 frames per second, because I didn't actually slow it down to its full because it was too slow at that point. So I could have shot at a lower speed, so I could have had a higher resolution, because this is like 2K footage that I upscaled to 4K. Anyway, I just like having like the little spell fly right underneath and just like shoot. Got like the little distortion. I defined a lot of like distortion styles in this whole thing. But anyway, so shoot, shoot, shoot. That's the shield I'm talking about. You can see it's like not even remotely the same as the others. It's got like an actual hard edge. It's really like bulbous. I focused, I think, too much on making it so that like it looks more like it's round as opposed to just like a barrier between dimensions, which I think is way cooler. Coolest slide ever, by the way. God, I was so happy when I got that shot. I was like, Devin, you're awesome. So yeah, that was a reasonably difficult shot, but not too hard. This whole sequence was kind of like, oh God, so much tracking, so much particular, such very wow, so much doge. Anyway, yeah. So this is probably like the biggest effect, at least visually in the whole thing, is just jumping through this fireball, like, yeah. And this was honestly the biggest effect I had planned from the beginning. I just remember like envisioning just jumping through a giant fireball. This is before we even had any of the story. I was like, as long as we have that sequence, I will be happy. And what I did was I took some really high detail quality explosion simulations and just composited them in around the shield. And since I wanted to have him kind of go through the shield, I started to have the shield like dissolving in the middle. So the fire's like erupting around him. I have like some like another fireball from like Action Essentials as like a distortion mat. So like it's distorting to real fire, really, which is realistic as opposed to just only using turbulent noise, which can be a little too much of a pattern, too consistent, which is why I use stock footage most of the time for that kind of thing. And then the fire kind of revolves around him. This is the same sort of thing. I use a couple explosions, same explosions, but from like top view as he comes. And this was really hard to do because it was really hard to like get him coming through the fire without it just looking like I just moved some masks out of the way, which is technically what I did. Nick, who rotoscoped the shot, I didn't even think about it at the time, but he did this perfectly. He actually rotoscoped his arm, his wand, his head, his body all separately. So I was able to actually use those different rotos like as separate pieces of footage, which was perfect because I would have just rotoed everything on its own and then had to like masked out his arm as it comes through first. But this made it way easier. And then just added some glow. It's also kind of funny because Video Copilot just released a tutorial on how to get like good glow in a video, and I used that for this shot. because I was like, that's actually a really good idea. I didn't know how to do that kind of glow. So I rarely use Video Copilot anymore, but I saw that and I was like, oh, I'll give it a look. And then I finished watching. I was like, dude, that was great. So anyway, this shot right here, bam, sinkhole. I composited everything, so it's like I did Devin falling. I didn't rotoscope it. Believe it was Nick who rotoscoped it. I'm not totally sure. I'm pretty sure it was Nick. Sorry if it was you and I'm saying it wasn't. But the actual like simulation, the 3D work was done by my friend Kyle, who runs Mega Steak Man, who I gave a shout out at the end of the video. And he did like the whole thing and gave me the 3D footage for that, and I composited it. So actually, no, I don't want to totally take credit. He actually did do a rough pass of the composite. He put it in. He did like the kind of stuff to make it look like it at least belongs in the first place. And I just went and added like the final touches of like all the dust, him falling, little like shock waves, excuse me, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So Ross, you started this shot. You may all remember like a month or two ago. I think it was like 2 months ago at this point when I was like, I need help, guys. Take a crack at this shot. And a lot of the submissions I got were great. Unfortunately, they were just not what I was looking for, because I needed a very like specific aesthetic. And Ross ended up having something that was the most usable for what I wanted. But even then, I had to like alter most of it because I needed to change the colors. I needed to get a little bit different like shock waves and distortion stuff and whatnot. Like for one of the spells, he had it blocking, whereas I just had it hit the wall behind him. But he did a really good job setting all of it up, which is interesting because now, Ross, I know how you do your After Effects files. I can give you pointers if you want. Definitely some stuff you can improve on. Sorry for calling you out. But if you want to talk about that, we can. And yada yada, then kind of goes on. I think the next shot, wow, this is already a 22-minute video, and I'm only halfway through this video. So I think I'm going to end this here. I can talk about more of this stuff later, but for now, I'm just going to upload this. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, because I've been working on this since March. And I have very intimate knowledge of this film because I've watched every single frame more than you realize. So, yes, I'm so tired at this point. I'm so glad this is done. I don't have to worry about this anymore, although I still have to like send it to places. But now, I've been kind of putting this off all day. I have to like move, so it's like you can kind of see some stuff in the other room just kind of scattered around. That's why I don't have my tripod. I have to deal with like closing out the utilities, amenities, internet, all that stuff. Setting up internet in the new place, setting up utilities in the new place, all that. Eventually do that soon, but it kind of coincided with this, and honestly, this was kind of more important. So, let me know what you guys thought of this kind of like talk through process of this video, and if you want me to do more in detail stuff on certain things, because obviously I read all the comments. I've been trying to keep up with all the comments on the main video. Holy God. In just like 5 hours, it already had 2,500 comments. I can't read that many comments. And like 6,000 likes. So obviously the view count itself hasn't updated yet, but I think if I was to estimate, just looking at other people's view counts from the last month or two versus likes, like it's a ratio that stays pretty consistent. I estimate about 100,000 views in the first 5 hours, which is crazy and awesome, but you know, then tomorrow will show up and it'll be like 72,000 views, and I'll be like, okay, I estimated 100,000. But fingers crossed for more by the end of tomorrow. 24-hour period. We'll see how it goes. Because I haven't actually really sent it to too many places yet. I've just been too busy. It's been blowing up on its own right now. And honestly, I just kind of wanted to see what happened. I wanted to see how viral it would go on its own, like organically. 24-minute video. I know you guys keep telling me to not worry about the time lengths, but I do, because I can't help it. Anyway, so the video's doing well. My Twitter's blown up. I think I've gained like 200 or 300 new Twitter followers just in the last several hours. All my friends have been sharing it on Facebook, and that's been great. Yeah, so that's all I'm going to say for now. I think I'm going to head over to Will's house. He was the dude with the glasses in the video, and his boyfriend, RJ, who is the main villain, Azrael. They are fiancés now, which is cool. And so I think we might go play Settlers of Catan, which is a great game. I just learned how to play that like a week ago. And celebrate!